Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome back and welcome to Friday's, yes, Friday's edition, Friday already. Friday's edition of the dceu Daily, and it's all about Wonder Woman 1984 again, my go-to movie for 2020. Now, Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be as controversial as Man of Steel and the Joker. Yes, the Joker. Should we talk about this? As most of you already know, I've seen the test screening of this film. I know what it's all about. I know where the bodies are buried. I can't talk about things in the film. Well, I can, but I just can't tell you what happens in the film. But I can tell you about the controversy without actually telling you about it and telling you how I feel about it, and comparing it to Man of Steel, and comparing it to what they were saying about the Joker. But this time, it's a female lead, isn't it? It's Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. And look, Man of Steel was a kind of a controversial movie, wasn't it? Because of the neck-breaking incident of Zod. But I never had an issue with it. I know Superman's not supposed to kill, he's meant to be clean. But Superman, in a way, has a human mentality. But also, David Goyer wrote it in a way that Superman has no choice but to kill Zod. You think about it, some people say, well, at that moment, he could have just flew him upwards. No, because they were both in a headlock and it was a very difficult situation. Whatever you come up with, Goyer has covered it. So what's great about that moment is he's got no choice. Now, it's interesting. Let's talk about Wonder Woman. If Wonder Woman, let's just say, killed someone. I'm not saying she does, but Wonder Woman does kill. She's killed in the comics before. I mean, so it's not really that controversial. Wonder Woman isn't a clean character. I mean, I must admit, the way they did her in the first Wonder Woman film, she's a lot cleaner than she's in the comics. When I say cleaner, I don't mean she doesn't bathe. I mean that she's a woman. She can, in versions of the comics, she's brutal. She's as much of a beast as Wolverine is in the comics, right? She can be very, very uncompromising, and actually, she's a really compromising version in the first Wonder Woman film. Now, I wonder what she's going to be like in this film. We're talking about decades on from the first Wonder Woman. All her comrades, as Helen O'Hara said in that article I read to you yesterday, are gone. She's a woman on her own in a man's world, but she's now used to living in that world. So there's lots of things to talk about. I could go on about Steve Trevor, but I don't want to talk about Steve Trevor. I want to talk about the controversy in Wonder Woman 1984, again, without telling you what that controversy is. But all I can do is talk about Man of Steel and talk about how much shit Man of Steel got for that compelling moment. Now, when I was in the cinema with people, the air got sucked in. It was a vacuum. We were all shocked that that moment happened. We know that Christopher Nolan wasn't exactly that enthusiastic about what David Goyer wanted to do, but when he explained it to him, he understood. Now, I always was under the kind of impression the whole point of Superman killing Zod was for him to know what it's like to kill someone and not want to do it again. For it to disgust him so much and never to want to feel that way that he'd never kill again. And I don't think that was explained properly either after the incident or during Batman v Superman. And I know then you're going to say, well, we don't need to be spoon-fed, Mick. No, most of us don't. We're intelligent enough to understand. But it's more compelling if Superman says, I'll never want to feel that way again. That's compelling. So that's not spoon-feeding people. That is explaining to the audience what's going on in the character's head. That's interesting. And really, I suppose, Snyder and Goyer are not really those type of storytellers. They're more fill-in the gaps yourselves kind of storytellers. No question about that. There's a lot of moments in both Snyder's DCEU movies where you could throw that at him. And as you know, I'm a fan of Snyder's movies. I love them. But nothing's perfect in life. I'm not perfect. This video's not perfect. Far from perfect, aren't they, these videos? Already I've made a bunch of mistakes in today's videos. Maybe you've noticed, maybe you haven't. But we go on because I'm just a human being, aren't I? And you're not going to hold me to that higher standard. I'll do that for myself. So anyway, going back to Wonder Woman 1984, this moment, and it is a moment we're talking about, and it is extremely controversial. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I think a lot of people look. The old band is back together. Deb Snyder, Zack Snyder. All right, you wouldn't say that maybe Jeff Johns and Zack Snyder being on the same production is exactly the old band. They're not friends after what happened. But Jeff Johns and Patty Jenkins wrote this film together. So that's very, very interesting that actually Patty is shaping Wonder Woman 1984 a lot more. But let me tell you what's going on in this film. They're doubling down on what they did with the Joker. They're doubling down on what they did on Man of Steel. They're doubling down on what they did on Batman v Superman. They're making a point to the press that their creatives can make whatever the hell they want, and they don't care what they say about it. If they want to make a darker tone movie, they will. If they want to mix light tones and dark tones together, they will. If they want a superhero to kill someone, they will. And they will not be dictated to. This is not the MCU. They don't need to worry about the kids. These are films for a multitude of people. So, yeah, this controversial moment isn't just me making it up. It's a controversial moment. And as I say, it's just as controversial as Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and the Joker. So it's going to be very interesting how people react. And I think if people end up being okay with this, and that's going to be also very kind of triggering, I think, to some Man of Steel fans and BVS fans as well, because they'll be saying, well, why did Superman and Batman get such a hard time? Why did Zack Snyder get such a hard time? But you're letting this film off the hook. Now, I'm fine with that. I'd rather that because I don't want to go through that again. But if I do have to defend Wonder Woman 1984 for this controversial moment, I will, because I think it's a great moment. It shapes Diana forever. I think Gal's performance in this film is absolutely masterful. Do you remember John Campea famously saying he didn't like the casting of Gal? He doesn't think she's a very, very good actor. She's a wonderful actor. We've seen her performance as Wonder Woman. Even in the awful Justice League movie, she's one of the people who keeps that film going for me. I'm really interested in her story and her narrative in Justice League because of her earnest performance. And that's what I'll say about Gal as Wonder Woman and Diana Prince. She gives earnest performances, just as earnest as what Chris did as Clark Kent and Superman. She's brilliant. She's a lot better actor than people give her credit for. She's able to have the accent, right, the European accent, and still be able to act to a standard, because it's really hard talking a different language. And as good as she is at English, it's still hard to know another language, which is your native tongue, but kind of perform in another language. How many of us, as actors, could do that, not speak English and do it in another language? It's really difficult. So she's brilliant in Wonder Woman 1984. You're going to see a powerful performance. People talk about Kristen Wiig a lot. People who haven't seen the test screenings talk about Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig was actually very good in Ghostbusters 2016. It's not a great movie, Ghostbusters 2016. It's neither a bad movie or a good movie. But I thought Kristen Wiig was really, really good in that film. In fact, she's the only one that I take interest in within that film. So I think Kristen Wiig is brilliant as Cheetah. And when I say brilliant, I mean brilliant. It's another one, I suppose she's another Zod in a way, where she's kind of a villain. She doesn't see herself as a villain. And as an audience member, you think to yourself, well, actually, she may have a point. Because again, it's another Man of Steel connection. Zod wants to bring back the Kryptonians. You know, he wants to rise Krypton on Earth. Now, in the case of wanting to just put it on top of Earth, and he doesn't care what happens to the humans, that is murder. That is genocide. But he's not thinking clearly. He's thinking, my world doesn't exist anymore. My people don't exist anymore. You know, Superman, our people exist within inside you. You can bring back everything I know and everything I love. And sod Earth, sod the humans. I'm not thinking about them. So to a point, it's an interesting debate to have, and I think it's like the Thanos debate. Was Thanos right? You know, in one part he's saying we need to reduce the amount of people in the galaxy. but the way he wants to do it is so brutal and so cruel. But he's saying, is there any other way? So it's interesting. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Is Zod a hero? Is Zod a villain? Those kind of villains are brilliant. And I think Kristen Wiig's Cheetah, to me, is very, very interesting. And I think it's a magnificent performance. I just think that this film really... I think I say this a lot with Smallville Season 2. Smallville Season 2 had a choice to continue on along the lines as they did in Season 1, or really kind of evolve the show, and they did. And this is what Wonder Woman 1984 does. It evolves Wonder Woman to being more than what she was in the first film. That doesn't mean the first film isn't good, and I didn't like it. It's one of my favourite CBMs of all time. But it evolves. It moves on. And that's what part 2 of a story should be. No, it's not a direct sequel, but you absolutely know that you've seen her before. This is the same, this is the same actor, this is the same woman, and basically this is the next Wonder Woman adventure. What I'm really excited about is seeing all the trailers to see if I haven't seen anything. To see the theatrical version in cinemas is always exciting for me. And people say, well, why? But you've seen the test screening. Because the test screening isn't the finished article. So, you get a different feel, that magical feel of watching a movie that's been finished when it's in theatres. So I'm very excited about the release of this film. As I say, I'm talking to you about this controversial moment, and people will make it a controversy. People like the Hollywood Reporter, people like the Access Media, they will make this a big moment. And they will not like it. I promise you, they will not like it, because they are very, very disciplined and direct on what a woman should and shouldn't do. But I don't think Wonder Woman has anything to do with being a woman. That's fun, isn't it? She's called Wonder Woman. But I don't think her gender has anything to do with her character. And why shouldn't she be able to do all the things the male superheroes do? Because if we're saying she can't, then we are being sexist. We are being unfair to the female side of the argument, aren't we? But this is Wonder Woman, and her gender has nothing to do with anything. You can look to her as a young girl and think to yourself, well, if Wonder Woman can do this, why can't I be a hero too? That's great. That's amazing. But also, a young boy can do that as well. But obviously, there is a bit of representation with the character of Wonder Woman for girls to be inspired. And she's always inspired girls. But really, Wonder Woman has always inspired everyone. I think this is a funny, dark, light, brilliant CBM. Patty Jenkins has done a great job directing this film, but the controversy will be a talking point. Oh, I really want to talk about it further with you guys, but I can't. But yes, it's going to get people talking. It wouldn't be a dceu film if there wasn't controversy, if people weren't hating on it, if people weren't talking about it. And we will talk further about this as the weeks and the months get closer to the release of Wonder Woman 1984. And if you want to keep this conversation going, you can follow me at Twitter at MoviesTVMad. Keep in touch, keep in contact, and don't forget, any DC news happens, if the Snyder Cut is finally released, I'll be the first to record the video. You'll hear it here first. Very, very exciting times for all DC fans. So keep it here on Big Mouth. Like, share, subscribe, and please give me your thoughts down below. Please comment down below, because I always read them and I'm extremely interested. I shall see you tomorrow for tomorrow's DCEU Daily.